Hello everyone, we are continuing for Reincarnation, Love, Karma, Chapter 7, and then we're going to move on to Chapter 8. And then the Huja Huja, we took some Jello shots. Probably going out tonight for Halloween. The first night of Halloween 2, we're going to wear vampire costumes where we'll show it to you in just a moment on another video. But we're continuing Reincarnation, Love, Karma, Chapter 7, finishing it up. I'll begin. But sooner or later, the soul's felt desire to gain new experiences and to manifest in earth life some of the advancement which has come since death. And for these reasons, for the attractions or desires have been smoldering there, not lived out or cast off, or possibly influenced by the fact that some loved soul on a lower plane is ready to reincarnate and wishing to incarnate at the same time in order to be with it, which is also a desire of the soul's fall into a current deeper toward rebirth and selection of proper parents of advantageous circumstances and surrounding, and consequence again fall into a soul slumber gradually, and so when their time comes, when they die, to place upon the have been existing and born into a physical life and body, a soul does not fully awaken from its sleep immediately at birth, but it exists in dream-like state during the days of infancy. Its gradual awakening is evidenced by growing intelligence of the babe. The brain of child keep pace with demands made upon it. In some cases, the awakening is premature. We see cases of progenius, a child genius, but such cases more or less abnormal and unhealthy. Occasionally, the dream soul in the child half wakes and startles us by some profound of observation or mature remark or conduct. The third phase of the question: what is the final state of the body of the soul? This is one that reaches the very center of the heart, the philosophical religious thought of the teaching. Each philosophy and religion has its own explanation and interpretation of the truth, and it's not ready for us to attempt to select the teaching from many in this work. The reader will find many references to the various explanation teachings that as he reads the several chapters of this book, he will make use of discrimination judgment by selecting the appeals to him most strongly, but he will notice that the fundamental agreement between all the teachings and beliefs, the principle of the movement in the soul is upward and onward, and there is no standing still in spiritual development and unfoldment.
Whether the end, if the end is there, is the reaching of the states of bliss and the presence of divine one, or whether the weary souls find rest and the bosoms of the fathers by the name by what has been called union with God. The vital points for the evolving souls is that there is a better day coming, a heaven of rest, rounding the turn of the road. And whatever may be the details of the truth, the fact remains that whatever states awaits the soul's finalities, it must be good, and in accordance with divine wisdom and ultimate justice and universal love. The majorities of occultists looked forward to an end and a sense of being absorbed and the divine being, not in the sense of the inhalations, but in the sense of reaching a consciousness of the whole in the whole. This is the true meaning of the nirvana. But whether this be true, or whether there is the place of final rest in the highest spiritual realms, others stand and the sense of absorptions in the divine, or whether there is a state of internal progressions from plane to plane, from realm to realm, and on, forever Godward and more God-like. The end must be good, and there is nothing to fear, for the power that rules here rules there, and everywhere. And remember this, ye seekers, after ultimate is truth. The highest authorities informs us that even the few stages or planes just ahead of us is the journeys are so far beyond our present powers and conceptions that they are particularly practically, unknowable to us. This being so, it will be a sin that states very much nearer to us than the end must be utterly beyond the power not only of our understanding but also of our imagination. Even when strained to its utmost. This being so, why should we attempt to speculate about the end? Instead, why not say with annulment? I do not ask to see the distance, saying, one step enough for me, lead though me on.
They said that when Thurl was dying, a friend leaned over taking him by hand, said, Henry, you are near by the border now. Can you see anything on the other side? And the dying Thurl replied, what world of time, Parker? And this seemed the great lesson of the life, one plane at a time, but through the veil that its ice is impossible to be lifted entirely still, there is something that enables one to see at least dimly features of the goddess behind the veil. It is something that is intelligent, faith that he knows. Although it is unable to explain that even though it to itself, and the voice of the something within it forms of the faith, all that well brothered from beyond planes and states and universes at the time and space and the name and form the things that there must be, that which transcends from them to all them, from the city that they will be perceived through, though that we must not know that in fact they must exit, that is, it is a sufficient guarantee that the law is constant operation of all planes from the lowest to the highest, that the cosmos is governed by law, and that being so the iron and autumn may be destroyed in this place that do not suffer injustice, and that the philosophers of the will attain in rightly and know that the Sat Chicha Amanda Hanindu Samatimada, the being in wisdom of bliss, absolute of all philosophies and religions, are upon the final state of the blessed, and that the occultists that are blessed, that are not a soul, a sacred scale of life, and all that is it's called Kananchi Chepra Chuchapachivatra, and the strife of the life Chukuhuchwachihuchkatra. And there is something that steadily brooding and watching and waiting, the life, love, light, and love of all, such as the message illuminating from all ages, races, and lands. It is not worthy of our attention and consideration. Okay, that is the end of chapter 7. We're going to now start on chapter 8, the justice of reincarnation. There are 3 views entertained by men who believe in the existence of the soul, that there have been shades, beliefs, and opinion of the subject, but they will be divided into 3 classes. These classes are respectively there are follows: that the soul is specifically created by supreme power at the time of conception of birth, that is position on earth, its circumstances, it degrees intelligence, the fixed arbitrary by the power for some inscrutable reason of its own.
That the soul was pre-existed.
Come on now.
That it exists before conceptions and birth, and some higher states not understanding by us, from whence it was thrust into humans forms and birth, its positions on earth, its circumstances and degrees of intelligence, etc., being determined by causes unknown to us. That the soul is one of the countless others which emanated from the source of being at some period in the past. in which souls were equal to power, intelligence, opportunities, etc., and which worked its way up in spiritual evaluations from lower forms of expressions and life to its present state, from which it is distant to move on and on to higher and still higher forms and states of existence until the end. After millions of eons of existence in the highest plans of express, life it will begin again return to the source of life of being form, which it emanates it and becomes one with the Father, not in the states of inhalated consciousness, but in the conditions of universal consciousness with all. This views all hold that the present conditions of each soul's is due to its own progress, development, achievements, unfoldment, or the lack of the same. The soul's being its own fate and destinies, and enforcer of the law upon itself under the law of karma, considering the first main view, namely that the soul is newly created, and that its conditions has been arbitrarily fixed by the divine power. The students free from prejudice of fear finds it's difficult to escape the conclusions that under this plan of creations there is lacking of manifestations of divine justice. Even admitting to the inability of the infinite mind to fully grasp its infinity's principles, man is still forced to realizations to manifest in inequalities of justice and the relevant causes of human beings on earth, providing that the same of thrust arbitrarily upon them, and it would seem that no amount of features rewards could possibly equalize or explain these conditions, unless there be something back of it all. It would certainly seem that justice was manifested. Of course, many argue that the idea of justice has nothing to do with the universal process, but all who think of the divine being filled up with love and justice are compelled to think that such equalities, such qualities, must manifest themselves to prove in the creations of such a being, and if there be nothing back of it all, then the candid observers must confess that the sense of the justice manifest is most thoughtfully according even to humans' imperfect idea of justice.
How many more pages do we have left?
Why is my phone being affected now?
Starting to get hacked too?
Yes.
Oh, you might have to have the same thing as me. Restart everything and lose everything. You're about to get hacked too, aren't you? Oh, it's starting to do it now slowly.
Yep.
If I were you, send all the pictures. Is your thing saved on your thing? On your drive? Or you have to delete your whole phone?
No. It's not gonna go there.
Huh? It's not gonna go like mine?
No.
Okay. Where am I?
Right there.
As a figure, a French writer said that about 40 years ago, if there are few men well organized of good constitution of robust health, how many are firm idiotic, deaf, mute, blind from birth, and the informed, idiotic, deaf, formed, blind from the birth, men formed foolish and insane. My brother is handsome, well-shaped, I am ugly, weak, rickety, and hunchbacked. Yet we are sons of the same mother. Some are born of opulence, others the most dreadful one. Why am I not the prince of great lord instead of the poor pilgrim on earth? Ungrateful and rebellious we have. Either of us have done nothing to entitle us to our own assigned places. We invited each other in favor, nor that grace. While it is unequal this distribution of the terrible evils that fall upon some men and spare others, how those have deserved the partiality of fortune who lived upon happy lands, while many other brethren suffer and weep in other parts of the world. Figure continues some world endowed with all benefits of mind. Others may have contrary are devoid of intelligence, penetration, and memory. That they stumble on every step of the rough life path. They were limited intelligence and their imperfect faculties expose them all to possible mortifications and disasters. They can succeed in nothing. Fate seems to have chosen them for constant objects in the most deadly blows. They are being who, from the moment of their birth, at the hour of their death, utters not cries or suffering and despair. What crime have they committed? Why are they here on earth? They have not petitioned on to be here, and they would have been begged if the fatal cup might be taken from their lips. They are here to spite of themselves against their own will. Gobble and unjust, wicked, and the opposes so miserable, so existence upon beings who have done nothing to incur it have been asked for it, but God is not unjust or wicked. The opposite qualities belong to this perfect essence. Therefore, the presence of this man, nor in such parts of the earth, and unequal distribution of the evil of the globe, must remain unexplained, and I know the doctrine of philosophy of religious solves these difficulties. I will destroy this book and confess myself unvanquished.
The orthodox theologies answers figures questions by the argument that the infinite understanding we cannot pretend to understand God's plans, purposes of designs, or to criticize his forms of justice. It holds that we must look beyond that mortal's lives of evidence of God's love and attempted to judge according to what we see here on earth, the man's miseries of inequalities. It holds that the sufferings of miseries comes to us as an inheritance from Adam's, and as a result of the sins of our first presence. But if we are good, it would all be invented up and recompensate in the next world. Of course, these are extremists who hold the predestinations and have held that some were happily and some miserable, simply because God, in the exercise of His will, and had elected and predestined them to those conditions that it would scarcely from fair to quote this as the positions of current theology, because the tendencies of the modern theological thought was away from the conceptions. We mentioned that merely as showing what some have thought of the subject. Others have self-refuge in the idea that we suffer from the sins of the parents, according to the old doctrine that the sins of the parents shall be visited upon the children. But even this is not in accordance with man's highest idea of justice and love. Passing on to the second view, namely that the soul was pre-existed, that is, exists in some higher states not understood by us, from whence it was thrust into human forms, etc. We note that the questions as to the cause of inequalities, miseries, etc., as considered a moment ago, are still actively with us. This view does not strengthen the questions at all, for whether the soul's pre-existence in a higher state or whether it was freshly created, the fact remains that the soul, they must be equal to the sense of being made by the same process and form the same materials, and that up to the point of their embodiment, they had not sinned or merited any rewards or punishment, nor had they earned anything on the way or another. And yet, according to the theory, these equally innocent of inexperienced souls are born. Some being thrust into the bodies of the children to be born in environments conducive and to advancements, development, etc., and gifted with natural advantage, while others are thrust into bodies of children to be born into most enriched environments and surroundings, and they devoid the many natural advantage, not to speak to the cripples, deformed, and pain-ridden ones in all walks of life. There is no more explanations of the problems in this view than there was in the first mentioned one.
Okay, everyone, that is the end of the part 1 of this chapter, The Justice of Reincarnation. We'll continue on next time to part 2 of this chapter. We're going to go address the Halloween, and we're going to
Bye.
everyone.